Welcome to another edition of the BFF Show. My name is Brendan.
I'm Franco.
And Franco, it's been a couple weeks since we were able to get together and record. You are, as always, from an undisclosed city location. I won't even beg to question where you are at the moment. I am as usual, reporting to you all live from an apartment in Los Angeles. So, Franco, how have you been? What's new in your world? What's going on with you?
I'm doing well. We won't go to the city location because, as your wife definitely pointed out, we have to keep shirking the haters, as they would say. Other than that, it's been a little busy. I'm sorry we missed you last week, but I feel like we gave everybody so much fire with the last episode and all of our hot takes. We had to give them a bit of a cool down period.
It was a hot take city for sure. Thank you again, Franco, as always, for your edits. This is a fully homegrown show in the sense that Franco does all the edits and I don't do anything. All I do is come up with some topics barely, and then occasionally I've been trying to get better at scheduling the show, Franco. So I don't know if you noticed, I'm sort of trying to reach out more, trying to carry my weight, my friend.
Yeah, I think you as a natural list maker and a little bit of a, we'll call it anal retentive. It's probably better that you handle the scheduling part and I handle the technical part.
Well, maybe someday I'll try editing. That's probably not going to happen because I'm terrible at it, but we work well together. Let's get on to the show. We've got so much to talk about. It's been 2 weeks, but it feels like there is so much. We're not going to get to all of it, everybody. I'm sorry. You know that we only key in on the things that we both genuinely enjoyed or wanted to talk about. But the number one thing is the Hall of Fame ceremony for the National Football League was this past weekend, and there was one notable absence, and that was Terrell Owens, T.O. himself, who had declared early on that he would not show up to the ceremony because he felt that he had been unfairly judged and should have been on the ballot the first time through when he was eligible last year. He was not. And he chose to, and I'm blanking on where exactly, Franco, but he chose to present his Hall of Fame speech in an alternative location, not with the other Hall of Fame members. And I think, for me, Franco, I think it was that he had a little bit of a point, because I think that despite the character issues, which seems to be the main reason why the sports writers did not vote him in the first time through, if the Hall of Fame to me isn't necessarily all about character, because if you look through the history, there's probably plenty of people that are in there, and also in the class that T.O. is in, that is questionable at best with some of their previous behavior off the field. This seems to be centered on the field antics, but still a behavior issue nonetheless, and not really looking at the player for just the stats and what they brought to the game. So I think that there should have been a compromise. I wish T.O. went, because I think that means more, but I also understand his perspective. Franco, what do you think?
I don't agree with you whatsoever. And
that's fine.
Here's the reason being. One, in T.O.'s mind, he was justified in his little tantrum. I think the biggest takeaway that he's missing is that this was his one chance to be bigger than himself. And you had Randy Moss giving a speech. This is the guy that in a 30 for 30 admitted to stomping on a guy's neck twice. In a casual conversation, like, I stopped on his neck twice, and then I blah, 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 blah. Then you had Ray Lewis, and we don't need to get into all of his legal stuff. But the Hall of Fame ceremony is a chance for those players to show, the next generation of players, in addition to people that have been their fans for a long time, how they've evolved as human beings and have that moment where they've basically, transcended who they were as a player. Unfortunately, we've seen this with T.O. back when he was with Buffalo and Cincinnati and the T.O. and Cinco show. T.O. is still going to be T.O. He still thinks he's valid and relevant, and he's not. And I think going to the Hall of Fame dinner would have been a chance for him to show that he accepts that he's moved on in his career and he's moving on to bigger, better things. Instead, a day later, he tried out for a CFL or AFL team, I forget. So, stupid move, hurts his legacy, if he had any legacy anyway. T.O., not a friend of the show. But please, Brendan, tell me what you think.
I don't know if it necessarily hurts his legacy because it's over. There is no more football legacy for him in the context of this Hall of Fame discussion. I think that the Hall of Fame needs to figure out how do they judge somebody? Because you mentioned Randy Moss, Ray Lewis issues, of course, on the field, Marvin Harrison issues off the field. I think there's a lot. If you start checking off behavior issues, you're going to run up into a big problem then if you're the NFL Hall of Fame with some questionable decisions that could be laid before your feet. I think it's unfortunate that that's what was the primary force that punted T.O. to the second time around. I think the other thing that's weird that came out of this is that the NFL reportedly in the NFL Hall of Fame is considering making players that are eligible sign a sheet of paper that says, I will show up to the Hall of Fame ceremony and dinner and participate. I think that's stupid. I don't think that that's something that they should even bother with. I think it just exacerbates the issue more. It's, again, it just seems to be a much ado about nothing, and I'm not totally saying T.O. is not at to blame, but I also understand a bit that if he is being judged by just what he brought on the field, whether or not a behavior caused him to be hated by teammates, because there's plenty of guys probably in the Hall of Fame that are hated by teammates. If you're looking at just the content of the person on the field in terms of the football stats and what they brought to the game, then he should have been in last year.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry. We don't agree. No professional sports Hall of Fame has ever been just about the sport, the accomplishment on the field. It's just not the way it works. The NFL has less of a leg to stand on. Surprise, surprise. O.J. Simpson's bust is still in the NFL Hall of Fame, and he was acquitted of the murder of Nicole Simpson Brown. But that doesn't change the situation with his other arrests and other things. So, I mean, you can't put it on off-the-field concerns. I think the fact that T.O. is probably the worst teammate in the history of the NFL and made a point to go out of his way to be belligerent and aggressive and horrible with the media is the reason why he didn't get it the first time. And honestly, I won't even say that it's a shame. I would have been fine with him waiting another. He should eventually be in the Hall of Fame, but he deserved what he got. By putting him as the first ballot Hall of Famer, despite all his stupidity and grandiose showboating and nonsense, is to encourage future players and future generations to think that's okay. And I think it's the right message to make him wait for 1 year for being the kind of guy that he is. So we couldn't disagree more on this fact, and I think T.O., one, hurt himself by not showing up, and two, deserves everything you get from it. And I think it says a lot about a guy when you've been in the NFL for 17 years and you have to do your Hall of Fame ceremony at your college. And that's all we're going to say. Mic drop.
This is one of the few times that we just disagree. And I won't belabor the point, but I think what I will say is that I think this puts the NFL in a very tricky situation, because now they're going to start making value judgments. If you're going to do it for T.O., you got to do it for everybody moving forward. And I think it'll be very interesting to see where they draw the line and how they communicate this to those who are entering the Hall of Fame as well as the audience. That's just how I feel.
I think that's nonsense. Mostly because there's no other player like T.O. that will refuse their ballot to come onto the Hall of Fame stage. And secondly, no other player's gotten the way to be as ridiculous about the Hall of Fame as T.O. has. And you wrote out Marvin Harrison, but for all of the claims about him, he's never been convicted, so that's not a fair assumption. In the United States, you're innocent until proven guilty. So that's bullcrap. But moving on from that, I think if the NFL does make this rule, T.O. wins, because he then is now enshrined forever to make the NFL legislate it. The NFL needs to walk away from it and just accept that he screwed himself, and that's it. All
right, we'll move on. I enjoyed the conversation. We're not mad at each other. This is what friends do. We sometimes have it, and this rarely happens.
I know it's good TV.
It's good. Sure, it's good TV.
Yeah.
It's good TV. But let's move on to something that we can all agree on, that the Browns had a really terrible year last year. So terrible that... and it seems to still be a legacy, and I want to pull up something very interesting, because the reason why we're bringing up the Browns is that they recently traded Corey Coleman over to the Bills. And Franco, I want to give you, since 2012 to 2016, here are their draft picks from the first round and their current status. So here we go. Brandon Weeden, 2012, cut. Trent Richardson, traded. Barkevius Mingo, 2013, traded. Justin Gilbert, 2014, traded. Johnny Manziel, 2014, cut. Danny Shelton traded in 2015. Cam Irving traded in 2015. Corey Coleman traded 2016. Franco, this is such a depressing view and snapshot of the Cleveland Browns, who have whiffed on so many high draft picks, that I guess my question is, are you surprised that they traded? And then follow-up, is there any hope left as we look at what they brought to the table in this last draft? And is there any possibility that they get out of this slump?
So the sad thing with that list is that 3 of those players are no longer even in the NFL. And it's not been that long. I think trading Coleman's a smart move because he's been injured the last 2 years and hasn't shown anything. So it was kind of a lost project anyway. And I think they have the talent in Duke Johnson, who's running back, to move into the slot. So the move, in fact, makes sense to me if you have Josh Gordon. Everybody's crossing their feelings for that one. And the receivers they brought in, if they shift Duke Johnson over, then losing that depth isn't really a bad thing. And they did get some value back for him, albeit a 7th-round pick. But who knows? They always say Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, so there's that. I think this is the biggest sign you can take away is that the Browns are washing their hands of Sashi Brown. And this is, I think the pattern of draft picks is reflective of the organization that we've seen fail so many times. The hope is that the newest organization and the staff administrators they've brought in can turn it around. I do think they're headed in that direction, and I do think Tyrod Taylor and Jarvis Landry are the 2 players that will change that culture when they brought them in, because the quarterback and the star wide receiver tend to kind of adjust the way the team moves forward. So I think they're going in the right direction. I think it's a smart trade. I do think it's terrifying to think they've lost all of their draft picks since 2012.
Want to touch on Baker Mayfield. I was listening to the radio this morning on my ride into work, Dan Patrick's show, and he was interviewing a reporter that follows the Browns. And they're trying to set up, speaking of Tyrod Taylor, it almost impossible for Baker Mayfield to be somewhat successful and try to avoid a quarterback controversy, because Tyrod Taylor is taking the first-string offense and going against the second-string defense. Mm-hmm. When it switches, Baker Mayfield has a second-string offense against the first-string defense. So he's getting picked off left and right, and he's just not doing well. And it's almost a way that the Browns are trying to insulate themselves from having the conversation about Baker Mayfield starting. I think they definitely need to keep Tyrod Taylor for sure and have him be the main starter. But do you have faith that Baker Mayfield's the guy? Because this conversation, as I just mentioned, came up with Johnny Manziel that this was going to be the guy. He's got flashy attitude. He's going to be great. Baker Mayfield's sort of in that similar DNA world, but I don't know, Franco. Do you think this was the pick? Is this the guy, Franco, that's going to make it?
Let's unpack that very large amount of crap. So, first, it's not irregular to have your first-team offense go against your second-team defense early on in the season. In fact, the Packers were doing it at family night a week ago. This is news made for the sake of news. The reason being, you want your top offense to hit rhythm and feel good about themselves as they kind of close that training camp. And on the other side, you want your top defense to feel good about themselves closing out training camp as well. The benefit to Mayfield is that he sees a top run defense and gets used to reading different looks and has consequences for his bad actions, whereas he might slip by with a second string defense. So non-story there. That's just us making a story out of something. Comparing Baker Mayfield to Johnny Manziel is very unfair. Baker Mayfield does have what they call character concerns, but they're nowhere near a Jameis Winston or, as you would say, Johnny Manziel or a Dak Prescott even. So, yes, he has attitude problems or confidence or swagger, depending on what you want to call it, but I think it's a different kind of story. Baker Mayfield strikes me more in the vein of a Deshaun Watson as opposed to a Johnny Manziel. I think the fact that he's white and Johnny Manziel is white is the reason why you're hearing that comparison.
No, I make it that comparison because of the attitude. I think that's to me it looks like a similar situation where we don't know quite yet what we're getting at the NFL level, but there's a lot of hope around it. That was the only comparison.
Okay, well, I thought you meant more in how he carries himself. I think the attitude again is more in line with a Vince Young or another player of that ilk as opposed to Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel is kind of like a TO, and that's a once in a lifetime situation when that happens. It's not endemic of another quarterback. Do I think he's the answer? I think he's more of an answer than Sam Darnold is for his franchise. I think he can be, and I think if he learns under Tyrod Taylor, who was a backup for a long time under Flacco before finding success in Buffalo, I think he'll be really good. If they rush him through this year and they bench Taylor in the middle of the year for panic, especially with Hugh Jackson being on the hot seat, I think he'll fail. So I guess it's a tiered answer for me. If they let Taylor play out the year, barring injury, and make him sit, I think his chance to succeed is a lot better. And I think Taylor's an excellent leader for that team, and he has experience being the backup and learning. So he's basically been dropped in a really, really great situation. So to me, I think he has the potential, and I think he's going to be the best quarterback out of this class. But what do you think, Brendan?
Whoa, all right. I mean, I don't know, because I feel like every time I try to make a prediction about a freshman quarterback class, it blows up in my face, and I don't understand. Clearly, I don't understand any of the film and of what little I watch. I think that while, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with that. It's not necessarily a carbon copy of Johnny Manziel. I think that Baker Mayfield is, even despite what I just said, while those character traits might not be the best, I'm kind of curious as to see how this goes. So he's the one I actually want to watch. Yeah. Not everybody else. I think the Jets with Sam Darnold they're doing the Jets thing again, where they already messed up the rookie contract, which was like less than $400,000, which is nothing to a team. It's just like, get the guy the money, make it work, get him the reps. I think he's probably going to be the starter, which again, very Jetsian move to just throw him out there. And I think that he's not going to do that well. So I don't know. I mean, I guess Baker Mayfield, just because how much worse can you get than 0-16? But I think that he needs to not be starting right away. But Sam Darnold's going to start, and we're going to find out, Franco. And I think what will be the most exciting, personally, for the two of us, is to see in our fantasy football league, which this is a teaser for the next couple of weeks. We'll be doing maybe a little bit more deep dive into what's going on in the world of fantasy. Who picks up any of these rookie quarterbacks? And let's see where this goes. But I'm going to hold off, Franco. I need to see a week one, man. I don't know who's going to do well. It's always a crapshoot.
Well, remember that the Jets will probably wait until the fourth preseason game to announce their starter, because they want the element of surprise. So, who knows? I think Darnold may have succeeded elsewhere. I think he's doomed. Good luck, Sam.
Yeah. We'll see how this goes, but it'll be fun, because every year, every time I said, like, this might be good, like I said, it goes the opposite. So, sorry, Browns. I might have cursed you. Let's move on to the UFC. Conor McGregor is back, baby, after throwing a cart at a bus. It was announced that he will be coming back at the UFC fight in October in Las Vegas, going against Khabib, if I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, Franco, correct me. I think instead of analyzing the fight itself, let's analyze the fact that McGregor's coming back, which has been met with a mix of criticism as well as a mix of relief, depending on who you're talking to. Relief maybe if you feel that the UFC has been suffering from a lack of star power, but criticism maybe if you're just kind of tired of McGregor and sort of being absolved by the UFC for his behavior over the course of the past year. Franco, what were your thoughts when you found out that Conor McGregor is back in the UFC ring?
One, I hate Conor McGregor. I hate what he stands for in athletics. I hate the image he paints. I hate that he is a glorified thug, and if he was from anywhere else than where he's from, he would be in jail right now. So let's just start there. We'll follow it up with his ridiculous presentation in the media where he released an Instagram video of him coming back because now he's his own brand. But
yeah,
and I get he's worth a lot of money, but he's not that big. He's not Brett Favre. He's not and Brett Favre's been dead and gone for a long time. But you know what I mean? He's not Aaron Rodgers, not Tom Brady. There's no.
Did you say Brett Favre's been dead and gone for a long time?
Yeah, because he's been gone for a long time. There you go. Not dead, but you know what I mean.
He's not dead.
Dead in the sports world. He's doing ads on As Seen on TV. That's pretty much dead as far as the NFL goes.
I would like one tag in this show. Just at this moment, just please flash, Brett Favre is not dead.
We're going to feel really bad if something happens between now and airtime.
Put a date on it.
Knocking on the wood. Brett, you got it.
We believe in you, buddy.
Stay kicking. The only reason why I'm excited to see Conor McGregor come back is so he gets smashed by Khabib. I get he's a decent fighter, or he's a great fighter, we even say that. But Nate Diaz has never been a world beater, and Nate Diaz beat him up pretty bad in both fights, even though he lost one. I think Khabib is next level, and I think Conor McGregor is going to be exposed, and hopefully he'll bolt away and go die somewhere in a corner. Professionally speaking, of course, not actually. So, great. I'm excited to see him come back and get his comeuppance, because you're not hard when you show up at a show and throw a hand truck through a window, and then don't even get on the bus to confront the guy you have to confront. You're just a coward. And the fact that you had 14 hours to think about what you're doing, to get your posse of 22 people and confront someone, says that you're not really willing to fight, you don't want to actually fight, and it was a publicity stunt. And again, if his name wasn't Conor McGregor, or if it was anybody else, he would have been in jail. If we're talking, to talk about T.O., if T.O. had done that kind of thing, in jail. Plaxico Burress fired a gun off on accident to his leg and only hurt himself, jail. So Conor should have been in jail. He's a scumbag, and I hope he gets his hiney kicked. I was going to use a different word there, but I don't want to go into a posted blanket. He's going to get his butt kicked. What do you think?
I think that this feels like Franco, and again, I don't watch the UFC, so this is just from an outside perspective. This feels like when Ronda Rousey had her last fight. It was going to be a giant hype train, and we were all, and I mean by all, the sports media was on board that this is, she's back. It's going to be great. She's going to beat this person. I forget even who it was. It was Nunez or not. I'm trying to remember at the time. But I think it was with the assumption was this is going to be great, and then it was bad, and she was ill prepared, and then just disappeared. I think there's a potential where you see Conor. Maybe he doesn't disappear and retire like Ronda did, but maybe smells a little bit like it could be a potential upset in terms of if you really believe Conor McGregor is good. And then I think I agree with you that Khabib is better and is probably going to destroy him. And I think that would be hilarious to watch. I think the road to this is going to be way too long, and sort of the shtick gets tiresome after a while, especially coming off of the Mayweather fight where it just felt like, the first 5 minutes of that first press conference was entertaining, and then it just went downhill and it was annoying. And I just feel like I'm not mentally prepared for this. I don't want to watch any of this lead up. I just want to see the fight, and I want to see him get beat up a bit and knocked down a bit. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. But we'll see. And the card, we're still a ways away, man. Even though October's kind of coming up, we've got months.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just be force-fed Conor McGregor.
I guess in this way the UFC succeeded. I will make an effort to pirate that show. I'm kidding. Don't sue me. They've sued people. I'll make an effort to go to a bar that's bought that show outright to watch that fight.
Same.
But I really could care less. And I hope we could only be so lucky that Conor would fade away into the blackness. In all reality, he's going to stay around and have his money fights against GSP or Floyd.
Yeah.
And then hopefully fade away into obscurity, because people like Conor McGregor shouldn't matter in the real world. They're not good for sports. They're not good for anything other than headlines and cheap television. He belongs on an island somewhere with the Kardashians. Just throw them all somewhere on an island and just turn off the cameras and let them live out their life.
Wow. All right. Well, harsh words. Conor McGregor, not friend of the show. Let's circle back to another. We'll try. I think we can. I will guarantee we're going to agree with this one. LeBron James versus Donald Trump. Over the weekend, Donald Trump felt that he should tweet against LeBron James, implying that he was stupid because, just in general, I don't even recall if there's a particular reason. But LeBron James opened up his own school, guaranteeing college tuition for the graduates of that program, and doing great things, opening up a school in his hometown, and the president decided to take that moment to take pot shots. Obviously, it's for me, it was just sad. We've been down this road before. It's depressing. We don't need to spend too much time on it. Just to say, obviously, LeBron James is doing a wonderful, great thing for his community and for America in general at this point, highlighting a really great thing, and then that just seemed to be torn down by our current sitting president.
So what spurred the argument was that LeBron James sat in an interview and he was asked about Donald Trump and the things he said in the media, and LeBron stated that Donald Trump is using sports to divide the country, which, unless you live under a rock or you're not paying attention, I think both sides can agree with. He's using sports as a battleground over the anthem and about other things, and about race, so there's that. And then he was asked if he was sitting across from Donald Trump, what would he say? And LeBron said there would never be a point where he was sitting across from Donald Trump. So that is the egregious statement that led the leader of the free world, or at least that's a title he used to get the presidency, to hop on his phone and tweet a tweet insulting the intelligence not just of the interviewer, who's been an interviewer for over 10 years, but also of LeBron James. So there's that. Here's the second part of that. He called LeBron stupid. I want to point out that LeBron is a very successful business mogul who is now worth just about as much as, actually more than Donald Trump was at his age, and is nearing Donald Trump's current net value worth. Additionally, LeBron James has never had a business go bankrupt. So if LeBron James is stupid, the equation on the other side of that means that Donald Trump must be an idiot or worse, right? I think that's the only way that works. If one's stupid and is much more successful in business than the other one who's really bad at business and can't spell things right in tweets, what's lower than stupid? Apparently it's president.
Boom. I mean, I don't really want to spend too much. It's just another in a long line of things that are just disgusting. So,
well, let's say this. We have been, as they would call LeBron haters on this show. At least I have been. I think at times his legacy is overrated on the court. I do think he's one of the best to ever play. But I will say I've gone from hating LeBron, the personality, to rooting for LeBron.
Yeah.
Up until he plays my team. But that's because I'm a good fan. But LeBron has really won my respect, and he's the best example of an athlete using their position to influence the world for the better. So this is a first. We're going to remove the not a friend of the show moniker for LeBron James. And LeBron, if you're watching this, we would love to have you be an official friend of the show, but we're going to make you an unofficial friend of the show right now. Done.
Yeah. We did it. We came. We changed. This might be the first time a not friend of the show jumped so formally and officially to friend of the show. So I'm proud of us. We're making progress. See, America. You can get past things. You can compromise. You can talk about. You talk about it, and you change your mind sometimes, and that's okay. Let's see. We do have some other stuff we're going to talk about, but we're running sort of out of time. We're down to the last minute, at least on my clock, Franco. But so give me a quick hit on this bit of news.
Okay.
The CW has announced that Ruby Rose will be playing Batwoman on the upcoming crossover event that the Arrow, League of Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl and Flash do every year. What were your thoughts, real quick, about Ruby Rose?
2 parts. One, it's fantastic that they're including another strong LGBTQ character from the comics. Yep. So awesome, Batwoman's coming to mainstream. The other side of that is they could have picked an actress that had a lot more range and actually would portray the depth of the character. I think Ruby Rose is a bad fit. What are your thoughts?
I'm willing to go with it. It's it's the CW, so it's not like it's a movie, and it's not like it's high quality.
Ooh. Are you saying CW's not high class? I mean, they're no Ant Media.
Not everybody on those shows. I'm just saying it's a little hit or miss sometimes. I think it's easy to admit that. So I'm not too worried about that aspect. We're going to roll with it. But you know what? I think the coolest thing is that you're right. It's an LGBTQ character, Batwoman, that is going to just be as is. They're not changing anything. They're not changing her sexuality just to appease television. I think it's awesome that it's a character like that that's going to be on TV. I'm excited to watch it just to see where it goes. Franco, what did you learn today?
I learned that apparently I'm on a quite the bender with not friend of the show and friend of the show awards this show. What did you learn?
I learned that even though we may disagree a little bit on the top 2 segments of the show, I still love you.
Yeah, I mean, sharing is caring. That's supposed to be a heart. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I don't know what you did, but I'll accept it.
Yeah,
for the BFF show, my name is Brendan.
I'm Franco.
Have a good week.
Peace.